companies in India would be selling to a wide variety of importers in the EU. So we will probably come across situations where an exporter in India is selling to multiple EU customers. And I just wanted to understand that how best would they be able to navigate the whole process of the CBAM, ranging from the emissions data to the reporting and to the contractual clauses. Because it may be the case that different companies would require different levels of compliance, different levels of report. Is that something that you have seen, that different levels of reporting are being witnessed, or is it something that one emissions report would be used across the board, and that would how it would go?
So actually, what suppliers can do, and which is the most recommended approach, is that they can upload their own full verified emissions report into the CBAM registry, because these full reports contain actually quite some confidential information that you don't necessarily want to share with your customers or with any other parties. So there's the possibility to upload a supplier by themselves all the relevant information into the CBAM registry, and then importers can just rely on that information for the purpose of their CBAM declarations. They will get a summary verification report that will allow them to review to a certain extent some of this data. Now, there's been some complaints from a third country producer that even this summary report still contains a bit too much confidential information. But this is the theory and the principle that suppliers, especially larger suppliers, will upload their verified emissions reports themselves onto the CBAM registry, and that is what then the importers and the declarants will be relying on. Because the alternative means that you would have to provide the full emissions verification report to your customer in the EU, who will then be uploading that and relying on that. You don't really want to do that because that contains too much confidential information. So assuming that you're relying on this system whereby it is uploaded by the producer, the supplier itself, then it's relatively easy. Well, I don't need to provide you with much more information. I'm complying with the framework. It's there in the thing. It has been verified. Now, the reason why the importers will still be getting a summary verification report thereof is that because the obligation lies on them, so that they can still review and then ask some questions. But hopefully that can be fairly limited, and especially if it's a sophisticated producer, can have some standard answers and responses ready to respond to any questions that might be there. Indeed, also, as you mentioned, with respect to contractual clauses that importers might be asking, what I would recommend, and Parth, I'd like to hear what you think about that as well, is that especially if you have a lot of exposure of exports to the EU, and that is important for you, that you have standard contractual clauses covering all these elements that we've discussed and that we're seeing, that you might not necessarily all will have to rely on if you have an importer that doesn't care too much and is fine with some more limited contractual clauses, but that you start with your standard contractual clauses and that you're a bit proactive, that you send those to your supplier, say, hey, listen, these are our standard CBAM contractual clauses. And then as in the context of any contractual negotiation, there will be some back and forth on that probably. It's possible that your customer in the EU will have their own standard contractual clauses as well that they want to work on, but then at least that gives you a basis, a bit of preparation, and a first step that you can have something to rely on.
Right. So I think the key takeaway here is that exporters in India need to be proactive. They need to reach out to their suppliers. They need to understand what the expectations are, have their own standard contractual clauses in place, and then take it forward. So that's very helpful. So looking forward to the future, CBAM is presently limited to certain sectors.